Hello and welcome to the FEZ Show. It is the 2nd of July 2020 and we have quite a bit to discuss today. As Abt has joined NIO, we have some new Gen 3 suppliers and Formula E have announced some cost-saving things that they will do in the future to make sure that the series is as sustainable as it can be. So joining me on today's show is the one and only Jack Pickering. Morning, Jack.
Good morning. Yes, I've said this before, but I really am Chesney Hawks today. There's no one else apart from me for you to throw questions to, unfortunately. But yeah, no, ready.
Nah, it's fine. Look, everyone's busy. As I said, it's back to normal life now. It's getting more and more difficult to obviously schedule these shows in with everyone else's other, things that they've got to concern yourself with. Even you last night, doing university work to make sure you get stuff in for today. So at least you're free today.
Yeah.
So,
I've still got loads of university work to do though. So.
Oh well.
Yeah.
At least
short period of doing nothing and then back to it.
Back to it. As always the way. But man, we got to talk about Daniel Abt because surely no one thought that he would, one, be back this season, but also the way to be back, the way that he's going to have all this like scandal about him and he's not even going to miss a race.
Yeah, no, I did know that he'd be back because the race reported it on Monday. But before that, no, I didn't see it coming at all. But yeah, no, I think it's absolutely fantastic that Daniel's got a seat for the rest of this season. Because yeah, I do feel like the whole what happened at the Race Home Challenge, I do feel like it was a little bit unjust, I think is the correct word. But yeah, I don't think he deserved to lose his seat over that. I'm happy that he's found a slot at NIO, even if it is, as we assume, for just six races, and we believe Martin Qua is coming back for season 7, is what it was worded like in the press release from NIO. But yeah, no, I think Daniel's the correct option for NIO. We discussed maybe Nelson Piquet as well. But yeah, the logistics of that would have been awful. Daniel's already in Germany, and he is a Berlin specialist. He's always done that. He's always done well there in the Audi in the past. So maybe fingers crossed, Daniel can maybe snag a point for the NIO 333 team.
In that press release that you mentioned there, actually, Jack, they did like a mini Q&A with Daniel Abt. And one of the last questions was, will we see Daniel Abt? It was kind of like a weird question to ask the driver, but I thought it was interesting. Will we see you in the season 7 car? Which Daniel was like, whoa. It's a bit too early to talk about that yet. But the thing is, we've talked about Oliver Turvey potentially leaving this team. And, Daniel Abt's just looking for a seat to revitalize his FE career. It doesn't matter what seat. If NIO are the worst car on the grid going into next season, I don't think that matters to Daniel Abt, because as long as he's in the seat, therefore he's got something to prove, like Oliver Turvey. He's got something to show the world that, I'm still a good driver, therefore I deserve a shot. Whereas, we're thinking Oliver Turvey deserves, maybe that seat at Mahindra that's opened up to replace Pascal Wehrlein. Maybe he goes to Jaguar because, people have been hinting that maybe he might replace James Collado. So there might be a seat for Daniel Abt. So I wouldn't rule him out for not getting that season 7 seat. But I think if NIO offer that to him, even if it is alongside Martin Roy, he's got to take it, because all of a sudden that could really, you forget about the Race at Home Challenge and his career. He's given that second chance. He's got that second lifeline, and he's going to go and he's going to prove the world that, I am still a good racing driver.
Oh, definitely, 100%. And we know that the NIO 333 car is not that competitive. We know it's a car that will struggle towards the back of the field. However, if he does snag a point in that car, then that will do him the world of good. We have seen flashes of brilliance from Oliver Turvey this year. He got into the Super Bowl in Santiago, and I think with Daniel's track record at the Berlin track, who knows at the end of the day. One thing that someone did point out to me after it was announced is that NIO have now locked out the top 2 drivers from the 2018 Mexico City E-Prix, which I think is a fantastic stat. But yeah, I think I think maybe this might be good for Daniel Abt if he can. Yeah, as I keep on saying, if he can show his worth in the Neo, even though it's not that great a car, maybe a Jaguar or a Mahindra might just have a quick old look and see whether they want him in their car. I mean, it did come as a surprise. I said that you probably wouldn't find a seat until maybe season 8. But no, I'm very happy that Daniel is back, and I think definitely at Berlin he could show something quite special.
He is a very lucky boy, though. Like it's just amazing. What a story! What an actual story! The way the circumstances have been. I think Audi were going to get rid of him anyway at the end of the season. I think his net days were numbered at Audi, so it might have just everything might have fallen into his lap. Maybe when they say, Jack, things happen for a reason. Maybe he cheated at Audi and it was for a reason, and he got sacked by Audi, but it landed him. But because of the opportunity of coronavirus and what we're seeing right now, it lands him that drive at NIO, which is amazing. But what I want to do is I want to talk about Marching because the race also speculated Piquet Jr. to be in that seat. Or was one of those drivers fine with Abt to be in that seat? And that could be a possibility because, let's face it, Mar, as much as I really like Mar and as a person, he hasn't had the best of luck in Formula E. His record hasn't been great. He is interested in, returning to World Touring cars, which, we might see. He might do that. So if he does decide to return to World Touring cars, all of a sudden, Oliver Turvey does leave the team. And obviously, there's 2 seats up for grabs. And it was interesting that Piquet's name was mentioned in that story. And, as Will said on Tuesday when we discussed it, he could be a driver that, maybe wants to try and also revitalize his Formula E career because, we're seeing now the physicality of the Formula E car isn't that strong. So Piquet's probably still got another 5, 6, 7 seasons in him, only being in his early to mid-30s. So, imagine having Daniel Abt and Nelson Piquet as a NIO team going into season 7 potentially.
That would be really interesting, and I don't think anyone would have seen that coming. Especially, I don't think anyone really has seen the thought of Nelson Piquet being back in Formula E since he left Jaguar midway through season 6. And no one saw Daniel Abt coming back. So yeah, I think if it is those teams, if it is those drivers, I think it might be one of the strongest lineups NIO has had, and I think the only lineup that I think would have been better than that is when they had Nelson and Ollie for season 2 and season 3. But I personally, as I showed on as I showed with my Pete's box on a Tuesday show, I am a big Nelson fan, and I have met him, and he is a lovely bloke. However, he is somewhat, and as we mentioned on Tuesday as well, he is one of the drivers where if you're not in a good car and you're not competing like properly up there, then Nelson's not really that interested. So I'd be surprised to see him in the NIO car. If NIO, as I said, I'm referencing everything from Tuesday now, but if they can get a different powertrain for next year, if they can snag a DS if they can get last year's DS powertrain, this year's DS powertrain in that NIO, I still think that would be a great powertrain for them to have going into the next season. But yeah, if everything falls into right place, maybe Nelson might be interested. I think we expect Marching Hard to be back for season 7, but it all depends on whether Oliver Turvey jumps ship or whether he stays in that NIO again for another season.
For me, right, we said it. I think you're right. Like, there is a lot of things for Piquet to come back that we'd be like, that's just not a Piquet thing. And we saw it in the end. We go green film. Like, he just wants a competitive car. But if he does feel like, if he can try and get back into Formula E, and I think for NIO, if he does want to go back into Formula E, then you'd have to jump at the chance, because he is a driver that will be able to, move that team forward. And hopefully whatever powertrain they bring in, he can sort of say, look, this is where the car needs to move forward. This is where we need to look at software. This is what we need to try and do car setup wise to try and maximize. And I suppose that's what Oliver Turvey's doing. And that's why maybe Oliver Turvey can get the best out of it. But if NIO were to lose Oliver Turvey, they need a driver like Nelson Piquet Jr. To bring things back together. That's why we did the feature a very long time ago about Nelson Piquet Jr. going to Dragon, and maybe he might be the best driver for Dragon, because Dragon have been in free fall and don't look like they're improving drastically, and he might be a driver rather than them signing 2 rookies and then another 2 rookies and being sort of like this development test role for other drivers that want to join the series to then later move on into factory teams. If you put Piquet in that team, in a Dragon team, for example, he could actually help them move forward rather than, dealing with rookies who have absolutely no idea, like Muller and Hartley at the moment, of how to actually get the best out of the car, whereas Piquet would do a good job there, and I think he'd do well at NIO. So it's interesting to see, but I think we should move on to these new Gen 3 suppliers. So obviously a lot of news came out yesterday. So obviously McLaren were the battery supplier in Gen 2, but it's going back to Williams Advanced Engineering for Gen 3. So they also did the Gen 1 battery. But it's really interesting, even from the little press release that Williams Advanced Engineering said, it didn't really give too much away in terms of the format or what they're trying to do, but they sort of, basically agreed with Dilbag that basically with this introduction of fast charging, the format could be anything, the battery could be anything. So now the brief hasn't really been made public too much about what they want Williams Advanced Engineering to do with the battery. They've just won the tender for it, but we don't know how small it's going to be, what the range is going to be, how fast charging will work exactly in terms of if it'll be a 1-stop race, 2-stop race, or they'll make a big battery and there'll be no stops race and there'll be, just fast charging, showing fast charging between sessions. We don't know how fast charging is working yet. So there's still so many variables, but it's interesting that it's gone away from McLaren and back to Williams.
Well, yeah, I think most people kind of saw it coming. It was expected that Williams would re-pick up the battery tender for the Gen 3 cars. But yeah, we'll go on to the big surprise about it, about changes for Gen 3 later on. But no, I think what Williams are looking at, I think it's promising. But yeah, they didn't really specify too much. They didn't, and it will kind of be a bit of a. It is right now a bit of a lottery in terms of what we think is going to happen. We are pretty certain that fast charging is coming in one form or another. But yeah, we still really don't know about anything else so far. So I think it's going to keep us on our feet in terms of a kind of will they, won't they kind of do this, and this. But yeah, I think regardless, I think Williams have set out a few things. I think and I think most of them look good. And then in Gen 3, we can just keep on building, keep on being better, and yeah, maybe challenge an F1 car around Monaco. Don't know.
Maybe. Imagine, well, the speed, because the cars will be lighter, so therefore we can go faster. But I think, yes, as Dilbag said, fast charging is the way forward. It's just how Formula E want to show off fast charging. Do they want to show off fast charging in pit stop? Is fast charging going to be just some quiet thing where, after qualifying, they just put it in the pad and it's back to full battery within half a minute, as they said? But it'd be really interesting to see how it works. And it's just interesting to see what Williams do and what they can achieve, because I think the fast charging has like 600 kilowatts of power, so it's a lot of power. So therefore, that's why they're saying that they don't need to make a big battery. So as I said, everything's up in the air. So it's just something to look forward to, see what maybe we can get hold of someone at Williams Advanced Engineering and see, what the plan is and what they've been told by Formula E. I think that's the next steps for us to do, to try and help find out the answers to that question. But the other surprising one, now this one I think was more surprising than the Williams one. Hancock, so the South Korean tire supplier, is now going to be making the all-weather tyre for Gen 3. And I think that's a bit of a shame. It's not a shame for Hancock. I just feel a bit sad for Michelin, because Michelin have been an absolutely brilliant partner for Formula E since day one, back in Gen 1 in 2014, and have produced some good tyres. And as I said, they've been a very good partner for Formula E. But it'd be interesting to see what Hancock can do. I don't know. I remember once upon a time, Goodyear wanted to be part of Formula E because they were trying to develop a tyre that would also, with the energy wasted from the tire, basically, it was really intuitive that they would somehow store that energy wasted from a tire and feed it back into the battery. And that's what Goodyear came up with. But obviously, I don't think Michelin and Hancock at the moment are doing stuff like that. But I remember Goodyear were throwing their hat into the ring and saying, look, there might be a possibility to do this, but maybe the technology isn't there for it yet. So, but it'd be interesting to see if Hancock or even Michelin in the future can come up with a tire that can help the car save energy.
Yeah, no, this was the one that came as a shock. I don't think anyone really saw Hancock coming in, and yeah, I think everyone. I don't think anyone really speculated about what tire supplier it would be. I don't think there was any chat about anything to do with that. But no, it came as a massive surprise. Obviously, Hancock do DTM and W Series and all that lot. But yeah, it was surprising that I'm not sure what happened with Michelin. I'm not sure whether Michelin just didn't want to sign the contract, or whether Formula E even opened up negotiation with Michelin. But yeah, no, that was the big shock. But hopefully Hancock can produce some really good tires and make the 2022-23, I think they're coming in that season, really, really exciting, along with Gen 3.
The thing that I find interesting with the tyre thing is that from the news stories and the press releases and what the FIA have said is that it seems like money was a big part of the factor in terms of who they decided for the tyre supplier. And it sort of goes on to the next point, which we'll discuss in 2 seconds, Jack, in terms of cost saving and what Formula E are doing for more cost saving down the line. But maybe it was just, Hancock said, we'll be able to create an all-weather tyre that is cheaper to make than what Michelin can make, and cheaper to supply for the teams. And maybe Michelin, said, oh, we can't do that, or that's not part of our business model. Because that's what it seemed like. It seemed like money and maybe how much it would cost to make the tyre came down to the ultimate decision of why Hancock was picked over Michelin. And by the way, I loved your French accent for Michelin. I can't do it.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, no, I being French, haven't spoken since. I think Hancock might have had quite a lot to do with with the whole development of the tire, whether it's cheaper and stuff like that. But I think it also means it's going to make the season even more unpredictable, because we won't have like any reference to with the Hancock tire. So yeah, I think it's going to be a good move. They've, as I said, we've seen them do well in DTM and W Series, and so fingers crossed they produce a really decent tire for Formula E.
So the next thing that I really want to talk about is that cost saving. So Formula E going down this more cost saving route, which, remember when we were talking about the powertrain and doing the 2-year cycle, and Gil saying that wants to continue, that will save the teams a massive amount of money because they're not developing a new powertrain every year. Formula E have also announced some other cost saving measures, which we'll go into right now. So, and this might also be part of the tire allocation. So once upon a time, and we were sure of this when we were reading it, me and you, Formula E used to have 2 sets of tires, right? But somehow along the line, we somehow missed it, or it's just been irrelevant and they've upped it. And they've had 4 sets of tires to use over a weekend, which actually makes sense. Because if there would be on 2 cars, actually, I don't know, the report didn't specify if it was 4 sets of tires for each car or 4 sets of tires for the team. Because if it makes 4 sets of tires for the team, then you would have 2 sets on one car and then 2 sets for the other car, which makes sense, right? Which is how we viewed it. But if it has been up to 4 sets for tires for the car for the whole weekend, then I'm a bit surprised by that because I didn't think it was. But it's been reduced to 3. So if it was, so that's really interesting because if it was 3 sets for the whole team now, therefore you've got 1 set on one tire, 1 set on one car, 1 set on another car, and then a spare set of tires going into. And then if there's a problem, you just have to take that set from the spare set for each team. That would be quite interesting. But what do you make of that? They've gone from 4 sets down to 3.
Right. Okay. Yeah. No. The way you just said it makes it a lot more clearer because I got very confused for a second. I was thinking, right. So one car gets 1 set of tires, and the other car gets 2 sets of tires, and so I'm not thinking logically this morning, obviously. But no, that doesn't matter. That does make sense if they only have 1 set of tires and then just each, and then the spare ones if they get a puncture or if it's damaged in a crash. So yeah, no, it makes sense, and it might make it more exciting. I think, however, if you have 2 incidents with so I remember, I'm not sure who it was, but 1 year in Paris, I think it was Nelson Piquet. He had an accident in free practice 1 in Paris, and then he had an accident in free practice 2 with his other car. And so he didn't, and so he would have, and so I don't think he competed in qualifying because they couldn't get it done in time. But yeah, no, that would be interesting. So if you damage, if you damage a corner of the car, and the wheel's not done, and then you damage the same corner, in another session, then they'd have to switch around the tires and put a left front, a right rear on a left front or something like that. I've got no idea, but yeah, no, it might be interesting, but yeah,
I think it'd be interesting to see what happens in that in terms of, I saw there must be a force majeure where, if they do damage certain sets of tires, which can be done, we've seen it, that they might, Hancock might have some spares, but maybe they have to pay a penalty, like a price tag for, you've had to use an extra set of tires because you've damaged them in crashes. Therefore, you've got to pay 50,000 euros for that set, for example, because you've made us give another set. So maybe there might be something like that. But it's very interesting because, to be fair, my brain wasn't awake also this morning in terms of thinking, I'm sure the cars, they don't have 4 sets of tires each. Yeah. I was like, and then my brain just twigged as I was talking about it. No, Jack, there's 2 cars. So surely there's 2 sets for one, 2 sets for the other. Therefore, there's 2 sets each. So therefore, that makes the 2 sets. So it's going to be interesting to see how the 3 sets work.
We're going to have to reread this off air, aren't we?
Yeah, probably. But I think I get it now. I think I get what the FIA were talking about when they put out that statement, because I was like, what are they on about? But now I get it. I think I get it. I think it just wasn't worded properly. Like the great wording of 25% reduction. I was like making me do maths to work out that it's just a reduction of 1. Why don't you just say they've gone from 4 sets of tires to 3 sets of tires? Why did you have to
elongate it? Journalism 101, mate. Elongate it as much as possible, and you can't repeat the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, so just make it clear. Just make it clear. Who knows what 25% of, well, it's easy. 25% of 4 is like 1, but at the same time, just
put 1.
Just say
put the number 1.
You're reducing 1. Why did you make me have to do maths? But anyway, more things. So it's not just tires that they're cutting down on. Team personnel is also being reduced. So they're cutting down from 20 to 17. So just less people at the races. I think that's just cool for less hotel costs, less food costs, less plane tickets. So it'll just make a little save there. And brake discs, another thing. Brake discs, apparently they won't be able to change them. And they're going to be monitored how they're used more. So, drivers, you can't just change brake pads willy-nilly, it seems. But the also interesting, the sort of last thing we probably want to talk about on the show is the Gen 2 Evo car. And I know you're a big fan, Jack, of the Gen 2 Evo car, but from the World Motorsport Council, we still don't know if it will be delayed. Well, it has been delayed for season 8. So this 8th season, the Gen 2 Evo package will come in, unless they decide to scrap it because it's only going to be used for 1 season. Because I think it's an extra 300,000 euros, the addition that the teams will have to spend on just having the Gen 2 Evo car, and we're doing all this on cost saving, but here for one season and one season only spend 300,000 on a Gen 2 Evo package. It just, to me, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, no, I've kind of admitted defeat at this point. I absolutely love the look of the Gen 2 Evo car. I think it is a massive glow up on the current Gen 2 car. I am now kind of expecting it to be scrapped. As long as the Gen 3 car looks kind of similar, I'll be happy. But I'll be disappointed that we haven't got to see a Gen 2 car. Either that, or just give it a few demo laps throughout the season, throughout the next couple of seasons. So like we actually see what it was supposed to look like in the flesh, and yeah. But yeah, no, I'd be disappointed because they look damn cool. So Gen 3, please make it look similar if you're going to scrap the Gen 2 Evo car. But scrapping the Gen 2 Evo car, I think, as much as it hurts me to say, makes sense.
Do you think Formula E need to be careful though? Because even with Gen 2, so Gen 1, they wanted to do this radical change, right? And we saw so many different concept pictures of what Gen 2 could look like. And to be fair, from the original concept pictures that they showed, it wasn't a million miles off from what eventually came. And obviously we haven't seen any Gen 3, but when they talk Gen 3, they also talk about this sort of radical, even more futuristic look. And the only thing that just came to my mind now is I don't want Formula E to overdo it. And then we come up with a car that's so crazy, so banzai that it might not look that nice. So what do you think? Do you think Formula E just have to be careful in terms of what they design? Because the Gen 2 Evo car did look smart. It did look smart. But they because of Gen 3 and it's a new generation, and I can't believe we're talking Gen 3. It feels like we just started Gen 2. But Gen 3 is only 2 years away, so which is incredibly crazy to think about. But do you think in terms of the design for the car, they have to be careful? Because I feel like Formula E, they're so ambitious that, you know, maybe once upon a time this ambition could actually catch up with them and catch them out.
Yeah, I think. One thing that I was going to pick up on there, the whole it looking quite futuristic. One thing that I know is what one of my best mates, when I showed him the Gen 2 car when it was first released, a few years ago, first thing he said to me was, I prefer the current one, which was the Gen 1 car at the time, because it looked like an actual racing car instead of the whole Batmobile look that we've kind of coined for the name of the Gen 2 car. So and that's why I kind of like the Gen 2 Evo car, because it's kind of a mix of the two, because it looks like what a proper racing car is supposed to look like, but also still looks a bit like that. Looks a bit like the Batmobile that we have right now, and so that's kind of that's why I love the Gen 2 Evo car so much. It's because it looks like this hybrid of the Batmobile and the Gen 1 car, but yeah, I think if they base it off that, it's perfect. Don't go too futuristic on it. But yeah, as long as it looks pretty damn cool, I'm happy. But yeah, just don't go absolutely full on the futuristic. I think, in my opinion.
So Jackie boy, I think that's a show. I think that is a show. Thank you so much for watching today. Just some few housekeeping rules. We had an amazing Twitch stream yesterday. We will be streaming a bit later today some R Factor 2 new PC. So we got some R Factor 2 last league race. So if you can join that, hopefully the show will be out by 8 o'clock in the evening. So about 8 o'clock in the evening, head over to the Twitch. There'll be a link in the description. Also, come join the Discord chat. Ever-growing Discord chat. Great discussions on there. Great to have a mixture of different age groups. It's absolutely amazing to see the discussions going on. There'll be a link to the Discord link below. And please remember, if you're enjoying the content, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. It's been amazing. You have been watching the FEZ Show. We'll be back next Tuesday to discuss whatever sort of news Formula E throws at us over the next couple of days. So we look forward to seeing you then. Goodbye.